Well, good day to the world, whoever you are, wherever you may be, whatever you may be doing, whether you're a parent or not. You were at least a child at one time. This video is going to be entitled something to the degree of, we feel sorry for children, but the reality is that they should be feeling sorry for us. And not really feeling sorry for us, but rather, this all started this morning when I got up, took a shower, got dressed, and I went out in the living room, and my kids had passed out on the couch last night. A 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, they're both asleep on the couches, and and there was a time when I would feel like maybe I should put my kids in their bedroom, because that's what a parent should do. But when they're passed out all comfy on the couch, it's hard to wake them up, and they like sleeping out there. So anyway, my 5-year-old sitting there with this, he's half sitting up almost, like he moves around in the night. So I started thinking about kids and how, my perspective, at least as a parent of a kid that's, okay, my thought would be, oh, he looks uncomfortable, but he's not. I was a kid, you were a kid, you remember what it's like to fall asleep on a random mattress somewhere in a corner. We all did it. I guess if you were, really wealthy and you had a huge soft bed, maybe you didn't sleep on couches or the corner, I don't know, but for most of us, we did. Passed out playing video games or watching TV, whatever. I'd pass out as a teenager watching Morton Downey Jr., just, stupid shows. And so anyway, being a really young kid, you're a lot lighter, you sleep better, you're able to, And one of the things that really just, I guess the real title of this video and the reason for making it was that there was a time when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I told myself I will never have kids. I didn't really say that like that, but I thought I'm never bringing kids into this messed up world because everything's too chaotic. They shouldn't have to deal with this kind of crap, and military and computers and high-tech explosives and terrorism. And of course, as I got older, I realized that this is just something that every generation goes through, although today's is much different just because of the technological aspect of it. But point being that every generation has something new, and bringing kids into that new world seems like, for example, bringing kids into today's world may seem like almost punishment for them, when in reality, kids adapt to anything that they are brought into. It's us, the parents, us, the adults, who just cannot bend our minds, who cannot change our ways, who cannot get away from our old thinking. Now, as I notice, of course, as I get older, I become more stubborn and I remain as open-minded as I've always been, but I become less interested in going out and going, ooh, wow, and trying to grasp new ideas and show them to everyone, because you realize that most people just aren't interested. Most people have their own worlds to work on. And so we kind of grasp onto a few thoughts and ideas of how we think the world works, and we live our lives. It's part of getting old that we have to forget much of what we thought was important. In other words, our minds are constantly changing. Yet we remain stuck in many of our thinking patterns. Kids, they're open. They can change. They can adapt to anything. And so I'm really grateful that I do have children. And I figure, not having a person who's smart enough not to have kids should probably have kids, merely because we need more parents who understand that. But kids, the reason why the kids seem just so, and the main focus of this video, really what I wanted to talk about, was that we see kids as being almost fragile, sometimes, because they're very easily skewed, very easily, or I should say, their minds are easily warped, they're easily twisted into believing whatever we want them to believe, but they still become strong adults. My son, my 5-year-old, he runs around playing. He goes to school, he comes home. He doesn't stop and question the meaning of life. He doesn't stop and ask himself, what am I doing here? Or what should I be doing? As an adult does as we get older. The kids are so much better off than we are in this generation, in this world, just being a kid, because they can cope with change so much better because they're not expecting anything to remain stagnant. They just take it as it comes. And we've all been there, so we all know what it's like. Atari came out, Stray Dog. Brian was talking about having an Atari when he was a kid and how he didn't get to go out into nature much. And started thinking about that, remembering playing Atari with my dad and playing Asteroids, and just, I wasn't worrying about what I could be doing or what I should be doing at any one time, is what I'm saying. And sometimes I'd be camping, sometimes maybe I'd be making some money, maybe I wouldn't. None of it really mattered. I was just living life. And this happens up until you're about in your 20s and you start to ask yourself questions about what is life? What am I doing here? What is this really about? And this is how people get to their late 20s, early 30s and have some, quarter midlife crisis, third life crisis. And I went through it, started asking myself questions. And so that's a setback as a human, to sit and question, oh my God, what is this all about? As far as rather than just living. But it's something we all do. Now, the generation beyond me, those in their 60s and 70s, I do respect the elderly view. Not elderly, that's rude. The older generation's view, because they have been through what I've been through mentally. Not in the same regards to our physical world, but the mental changes that go through a person. And I could say, well, mine's different merely because the world's changing so much, or technology is so much different than when you were a kid, but really it's all the same. It's all these mental processes we go through, and every person has gotten to their older years and said, what is this? Some people go into this mode of trying to get as much done before they die. Point is that we start out as kids, then we get into confused adults, and then the idea is to get ourselves back into non-confused, just living in our older generation, in our older years. Like when you're changing, I was thinking, I wake up and I'm changing I don't know how many diapers I've changed in my life, a lot. And you just think that as you get older, you're having your diapers changed again, It's a cycle. And it's more than just a literal cycle, it's just a symbolic cycle of growing up and then growing back down, receding back into that whateverness of non-existence, if you will. And it's not a comforting thought to lose who we are, which is, I think, why the kids have such an easy time with it, because they're not considering mortality, but they still do. One of the hardest questions is when a kid asks you what happens when you die. When my kids started asking me about death, I had to, go about it my own way as a parent. And I know that a lot of parents would like to just say, oh, well, it's easy enough. You die, you go to heaven, and Jesus is there. Whatever your belief may be. But when you don't try to structure your belief based on what others are telling you, then on one hand you want to tell your kids there's something great waiting for them, but on the other hand you want to be honest with them. You don't want to play the old Santa Claus card for life. And kids are better off than we are, in so many regards. That child mind, retaining it as an adult, I don't think we quite understand what that means, in the sense that I used to think when people would say, you have to retain your child mind. And I used to think that I guess that meant still having still being creative, still going out and seeing the world and making things and doing things. But I think it's more of a internal type thing, the child mind. It's going back to the state of comfort with not knowing. And a kid doesn't analyze the fact that he doesn't know and wonder about, why I don't know, you know, those really, really smart kids who are like have these philosophical thoughts and ideas that you'll see once in a while. Some kids just like genius. I feel sorry for those kids. I always have. It's just like childhood prodigies that are really good at piano or something. Very few those kids actually jump on a piano and just are good at it. It's usually a parent pushing their kid to do something, not always, but to do a particular musical instrument or sport or whatever, and pushing them harder and harder. And as you're a child, your mind is able to grasp those things quicker. You learn a lot more as a kid. Just like that's why they teach children alphabet, you know, different languages when they're young, because they retain it better. And that's part of being a human. You retain what you can, and as you get older, the parts that are important, I guess, are retained by you. But sometimes we retain the wrong parts. So I think that child mind just means being acceptant of what it is, but not trying to put a label on what life is or what happens when you die, but just setting all that aside just so you can go play and get dirty, you know. Because I'm not going to say that life is all about play, but because we know we have to work, but it's a major component of that to remain a child, to be able to get out and get dirty, metaphorically and literally. So anyway, before this video gets too long, I could go on talking about kids and life forever, but I just wanted to cover really that main point of us feeling sorry for the kids when they should be really feeling sorry for us, and often they do. They look at us like, what are you worried about? Why are you stressing? You know, why are you worried about something so dumb as you might run out of gas, or you know, worrying about something like you might lose your job, or what am I going to do next year, or 20 years from now, or oh God, where am I going to be when I'm 85? Who cares? But we all think about it. At least those of us who are conscious and aware think about it. And so the main point I want to take away from this is that consciousness, the fact that we're conscious and aware, does not determine that we're going to be, it doesn't mean that we're going to have these faults and be depressed and confused all the time, because as humans we think having consciousness just brings about these feelings. Yet children are conscious, aren't they? Do they have these feelings? No, because they haven't learned them yet. And that was really the main point I wanted to make. The kids haven't learned to be afraid of death yet. The kids haven't learned to worry about everything in life yet. So as parents, as teachers, as friends and family, it's our job to teach the kids not to be afraid, to be completely fearless. Because fear is learned. Fear is a learned response when it's not involved in imminent danger, if that makes sense. You have two types of fear. The imminent fear of, oh God, I'm going to have my head chopped off, I better duck. And then the fear of, what might happen 20 years from now if I don't have a house and I mess my back up, and what if my friends die, and you know, all these what ifs that we can't, you know, that's unnecessary fear. Kids don't have the what ifs, the unnecessary fear so often unless we instill it in them. So make your kids fearless. Teach them the reality and that life is confusing, but teach them to take it in stride and not fear it. Take care, everybody.